Now go on. What was your...
First, then, do you believe that Israel is tied in with this cabal you keep mentioning in some way?
Not Israel, but a clique at the top of the Israeli government, yes. Most Israelis I consider to be chumps or victims of these people. Because, for example, the cousin of the Shah of Iran, among others, came to us with information that George Bush and his group had given 12 neutron bombs to the government of Iran with missiles with neutron bombs on them. Remember, neutron bombs kill people but leave buildings intact.
Well, that's not only treasonous, it sounds crazy.
It is. And the Iranians said, we don't want them. We put them at the Iraqi border, and they asked President Obama to please take them off their hands, and Obama just refused to listen.
Wow.
Okay? And this is, again, people at the higher level know this is true, you know. But in other words, they were going to offer the people of Israel as a kind of ritual sacrifice. So the Israelis were victims. A lot of them were fooled with, Jewish superiority talk, which was really the same as the Aryan Nazi superiority talk, only you substitute Jew for Aryan. And they were chumps, okay? So most of the Israelis don't know what was going on and would be appalled to hear it, okay? So this is not a Jewish thing. I mean, I need to make that clear. It's about a cabal above all that.
And it has no religious affiliation.
Well, they are associated with the Abrahamistic religions, okay? Let's put it that way. They believe...
Going back to Babylon, Mesopotamia, all the way back there.
Well, at least going back to the time of the Caesars. Let's remember the religion, okay? The etymology of religion is religare in Latin, which means to rebind. And what do you rebind it into? A fascio. And what's a fascio? Well, it's a bundle of sticks, but it's a fascism. It's at its worst, okay, monotheism as practiced in the Middle Ages, for example, involved singular control over everybody's thoughts. Remember, in the Middle Ages, if you didn't believe in the official Catholic doctrine, you and your entire family would be killed.
Right.
Tortured until you confessed.
That was the Inquisition.
Well, yeah, and it's much more sophisticated now. They control... 5 companies control all the major English media, including the TV, the newspapers, the radios, the Hollywood studios. It's much more sophisticated now. Yeah, but they're trying to get everybody to think the same way. And they're losing it. I mean, 911, the story there was just so full of holes and contradictions that they were losing a significant part of their brainwashed audience, including myself. Because I was a high-level brainwashee, you know.
Right.
But in any case, what happened was that there's a group within the Pentagon and the agencies and stuff that realized this plan was insane, and they knew that the plan to kill 90% of humanity was wrong. And what they did was they blew up the underground bases that the elites were going to use to hide in when they carried out their nuclear holocaust.
Okay, I want to get back to that because that's a really central point, but there's one question I want to ask you before we get to that, because that's
Sure.
sort of like the conclusion of the discussion. But, okay, why do these guys need money? If they have so much infrastructure, so much assets, massive political power, why can't they just nakedly exercise power, move men around, move munitions around? Why do they need money? Why are they going around like a crackhead looking for a fix and going to all these different countries to try to scam money off of them? Why can't they just print dollars and make more money?
Because people aren't accepting their dollars worldwide. You got to remember, there's 800 U.S. military bases around the world. If they can't make the payroll for these guys, they're going to be marching out of their bases with food bowls in their hands, begging for food.
Right.
So, they cannot go and, they're being cut off from their oil, from their other resources, and, that was their Achilles heel, was the control of money. Now,
okay, go ahead.
Is self-financing. They have their own industries and their own income. the U.S. Army is dependent on Wall Street financing, and that's why they were dependent on, ultimately, the Chinese and the Asians who were financing Wall Street. And that's why, I mean, what I've told the Pentagon guys is, hey, you know, you guys can have a Starship Enterprise future, you know, exploring the universe and all that kind of stuff. Just work with us. We're not going to cut you off. You're not going to end up like the Soviet Union, where you had a general who's now, you know, suddenly forced to drive a taxi in London. And you can be the good guys again. And a lot of them said, you know, hey, I think that's a good idea. Yes, you know, we want to be heroes again. We don't want to be the bad guys.
You're saying that they have suppressed technology that could bring us into the Starship Enterprise reality.
I don't know about that, but what you can confirm in the public record is that, according to the American Academy of Sciences, more than 6,000 patents have been suppressed for so-called security or public safety reasons. And some of these probably need to be suppressed. Okay, we don't want everyone to have a backyard nuke, for example.
Sure.
But a lot of them, I'm hearing, were just kept because these people were acting like dogs in the manger. They wanted it to have only the elite to have it. So my understanding is that, for example, a lot of the so-called UFOs are just sophisticated, Earth-based secret aircraft that aren't available to the public at large.
I would agree with that, yeah.
And so, you know, the point is, let's develop these patents in a safe way, and you can have a boom time, you know, such as we haven't had in a very long time.
Right, instead of creating these financial products that are just voodoo, why not actually build infrastructure? And the existing military-industrial complex, I would argue, is probably the only entity on Earth that has the tools, the factories, the infrastructure, the staff to be able to accomplish this.
Exactly, and that's why, you know, the generals are now on our side. And the people who are not on our side are mostly bribed politicians in Washington, D.C., and the Wall Street crowd. So they're being increasingly isolated.
Now, what possible reason could they have, these adversaries? Why in the world do they think they want to reduce population? The average person, their mind shuts down because they can't conceptualize that anyone would be that evil. So what's their rationale, as far as you understood it?
The story they tell me is that, look, we're destroying the environment. There's too many people for the planet to support. And the other thing is, these people are elitists. They believe in eugenics. And they say, plus, you know, too many stupid people are breeding too much. Useless eaters. All they do is they destroy the environment, and they don't produce anything. They just sit around and watch TV, and we don't need these people. We want to eliminate the weak and the useless and just keep an elite. We want to improve the genetic quality of the human race by purging the garbage from the system. And we get to save the environment and create whole new natural ecosystems. I mean, I think, was it the Georgia Guidestones has their philosophy written out. You know, 500 million people in permanent harmony with the environment. This is what their goal is. So they put it in eco terms. Okay, people forget the Nazis were great green people when it came to preserving nature and natural parks and all that kind of stuff. They were really gung ho. And you remember, in Mein Kampf, Hitler wrote himself that he wanted to enslave the non-white peoples and then kill them. It's right there, and it's the same group. They're the same Nazis, the same philosophy. In other words, they wanted, and the other thing is they're sort of, the super elite were saying, hey, look, we're special, we're really smart, we're the elite, and we should rule the planet like god kings, and we'll need about 500 million slaves or so to keep, to keep us pampered, but the rest we don't need. And it's also about control. They don't have the brainwash control over large parts of the planet, and they realized that they weren't going to be able to control these people, and so they thought, let's kill them rather than lose control of the planet.
Now, a lot of people who read about this stuff online, the vast majority, in fact, including most of the guests that Jeff Rentz would have on or Alex Jones would have on, there is an incredible sense of futility. Everyone seems to go with the knee-jerk reaction that, like, all the governments in the world, all the countries in the world, everybody's in on it.
Well, you see, that's where they're being used and turned into controlled opposition. They try to numb people to the message. It's happening, but there's nothing you can do about it. It's inevitable, but that's simply not the case. And
could you explain why that's not the case?
Because they only control now the G5 countries, and they're
which countries are those?
I'm sorry, Italy, France, England, Germany, and the United States. Okay?
That's it? You're saying all the other countries in the world they don't control anymore?
Well, if you look at the countries that accepted the new, I think maybe they've got a few subject countries like Honduras and Colombia and stuff like that, but basically, if you look at the African Union, they put out their own currency backed by Gaddafi's gold, and they don't support these groups. Or most of the countries in Asia, Russia, China.
What about European countries like Czechoslovakia, Bulgaria, Romania?
They were at this meeting. There was a meeting in Monaco in the end of August. 57 countries were invited by the Swiss to discuss, cutting these people off financially and creating an international financial boycott against the controllers of the G5.
Now that's an incredible statement you're making. You're saying 57 different countries, including some of these Eastern European countries.
There were representatives from the Netherlands and Canada there too, okay?
Wow.
And since...
What about South America?
Yeah, of course. And since then, more than 80 countries have signed on. So we're reaching a point where it's going to become public, okay? It's going to be on the airwaves. It's going to be on the news. They can't hide it much longer. Okay?
Why the hell haven't they made this public already? If people are dying and these guys are trying to fake an alien invasion, that's one thing we keep hearing, that they want to do an alien 9/11. Why haven't they gone public already?
You don't think they've tried? Look, I had a book proposal at the Berlin Book Fair, okay? 11 publishing companies wanted that book out there, including 5 major ones. And they all came back and said they were told by their bosses that they couldn't do it.
Wow.
They've had people telling everybody I ever was associated with professionally that I had become an insane drug user, okay? They control the media. You got to remember that. There's 5 companies, 5 corporations, controlled by people like Rupert Murdoch and Redstone and stuff, who have a grip over all the TV studios, all the newspapers, the radio stations, Hollywood studios, you name it.
So if their economies are going to go down, they can then say that it's a global economic collapse.
And it's not a global economic collapse. Again, if you look at the public statistics, you'll see that if you exclude the G5 countries, the average growth in the world economy last year was 7%.
Holy crap.
People are booming. It's not a world crisis. It's a crisis among the countries controlled by this cabal.
And it's only these G5 nations. Wow.
Yes. Look at the statistics. They're all there. It's all in the public record. You just have to look at government websites and stuff to check this out. There's nothing I'm saying, including the plan to kill 90% of the world's population, that's not in the public record. It's in their own writings. We have countless confessions. Werner von Braun, the guy behind the Apollo project, said on his deathbed that they were going to use a fake alien invasion as an excuse for genocide. It's crazy stuff, but it's provable. These people don't think like normal humans. I guess it was Herbert Hoover said, not Herbert, J. Edgar Hoover said when a conspiracy is so big that people's mind boggles and they go into denial. But in any case, these people are coming down. Okay, we've got